Well, it's official. President Donald Trump has actually broken elbows up Prime Minister Mark Carney. There's been this tit for tat in the ongoing trade war, and out of nowhere, Prime Minister Mark Carney a few days ago said, you know what, we're going to provide a digital service tax to all U.S. tech that's taking place in Canada. To which President Donald Trump said, the hell you are. And now Mark Carney is taking it back. So yeah, that didn't last very long. Elbows up or elbows down, I don't know, but it's not looking good for Prime Minister Carney. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do really want to encourage everyone to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We're taking a look at a few different things. Alligator. Oh my goodness. Obviously, I'm not around alligators very often. Alligator Alcatraz is a real prison that President Trump is not only endorsing, but he's actually going to visit it later this week, which is exactly what the name sounds like. A prison for, I think, illegal immigrants that is surrounded by alligators in America. America just does things a certain way, and I'm here for it. I absolutely love it. Then Pierre is now scheduled his by-election for, I think it's August 8th. We're going to be taking a look at that as well, which is monumental for Canadian politics, but also for the Conservative Party, getting Pierre back in the House. And then, of course, we're going to take a look at why Mark Carney rescinded the digital service tax, what that actually means for Canada, for our economy, and for trade negotiations. And it's not looking good for Carney. But before we do get into it, since we are talking about how broken Canada is, how broken Mark Carney is, that's a perfect segue into today's sponsor. Something I actually ask myself from time to time is, how is there not been a documentary or a film that's been made about the corruption, the scandals, the abuse here in Canada that Canadians, everyday Canadians, have been enduring from this totalitarian government? And it turns out that it's actually coming. And it turns out that they wanted to sponsor this part of the video. Broken Country Film made an actual film that breaks down everything wrong with the government. And they went across the country and interviewed everyday people. It's absolutely insane that all of this is being documented. Like, out of all of the movies and films that have been coming out recently, this is one that I'm most excited for, and we all get to share it together.
It's hard to make money in Canada.
Everybody wants a change. Everybody wants a change in this country.
There's a myth in Canada that we have dirty oil. I couldn't be anything further from the truth.
Baby born today, she's on the hook for about $30,000 in federal government debt.
You know what the coolest part about all this is that they're actually giving away $5,000 to somebody, a lucky person who goes to their Instagram account, broken.country.film. The link is down below in the description and the pinned comment below for your convenience. You go to their Instagram account, you comment on one thing that you think is broken in this country. That's it. You could leave as many comments as you want. Imagine that. You literally have as much ammunition as you could possibly want, and they are going to select a winner by Canada Day and reward that person with 5,000 smackaroos, which is insane, incredibly generous. So thank you so much, Broken Country Film, for sponsoring today's video. Go check out their Instagram immediately. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you clicked on this video for a reason, so we're just going to get right into it. Starting things off with Alligator Alcatraz. The press secretary confirms that Trump will be traveling to Florida to visit the opening of Alligator Alcatraz later this week.
On a scheduling note, tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
I gotta say, I freaking love every bit of it. This is so wild. And the left is having a complete meltdown. But for those who don't know what it looks like, we're going to take a look at this video here. You can see there's a runway for the flights in and the flights out. And then there's a perimeter set around it that basically keeps the alligators out and the illegals in, which is freaking right out of a movie. I mean, this is insane. Literally just surrounded by alligators. Like there's just a pool around it and there's like 5,000 alligators. I mean, how could Canada replicate this? What would that look like? I mean, what would Canada have? Would we have to have like bears and cougars to surround it? Like that's insane. Insane in a good way. Like I've never heard of anything like this. I don't think anyone has. And the left is melting down, but the right seems to love it. So I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think of this? You think this is good? Do you think this is bad? Let me know down below. Next up, we're shifting over to Canada here. And today, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that a by-election will be held on August 18th. I knew there was an 8 in there. In Battle River, Crowfoot, Alberta, to allow Pierre Poilievre to run for a seat. So exactly as I predicted, the earliest it would happen is sometime in August. I said that right since the beginning. And here we go. It is actually happening. So let me know down in the comments, do you support Pierre Poilievre running in rural Alberta? Let me know what you guys think. Here's what CTV has to say about the matter.
We have some more breaking news to bring you this hour. Prime Minister Mark Carney has called a by-election in an Alberta riding, clearing the way for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run again for a seat in the House of Commons. The by-election will be held in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot on August 18th. It was triggered after Damien Couric resigned to allow Poilievre to run in the riding, which is considered one of the safest Conservative seats in Canada. This comes after Poilievre lost in Carleton, a riding he had held for 2 decades.
Yeah, to Bruce Fanjoy, this freaking unknown, absolute freaking weirdo. But we're going to shift away from Pierre. We're going to talk about Mark Carney a little bit, specifically the digital service tax, what this means for Canada, and what this means for Donald Trump.
Well, Canada has scrapped its digital services tax targeting U.S. technology firms. Hannah Lapine is in this morning. And Hannah, this happened just hours before it was due to take effect.
Yeah, Jefferson, the move comes after Donald Trump announced over the weekend he will be terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, calling the digital services tax a blatant attack. The first payments were initially set to be collected today. The digital services tax would have applied to both domestic and foreign tech companies, including U.S. giants such as Amazon, Google, and Meta, with a 3% levy. It was announced in 2020 to address a taxation gap where many large tech companies were earning significant revenues from Canadians but were not taxed. Trump reiterated his plan on Sunday to set a new tariff rate on Canadian goods within the next week, threatening to push Canada-U.S. relations back into chaos after a period of relative calm. The breakdown in trade talks comes after the two leaders met at the G7 in mid-June. Jefferson, Canada's finance ministry, said in a statement the two will resume trade negotiations in order to agree on a deal by July 21st.
Okay, thanks, Hannah.
I mean, that's just pathetic. It lasted not even 4 freaking days. Mark Carney I see what Mark Carney's doing, right? He's trying to do what Trump is doing, but he's not doing it very well. So that's what CTV had to say. Let's take a look at what Fox News in America has to say about this.
Canada is rescinding a digital services tax on America's big tech. Economist John Lonsk with me. Do you think the U.S. and Canada will reach a trade agreement very soon? Because they rescinded this tax after President Trump threatened big-time tariffs.
Yeah, they responded, I guess, in the way Trump was hoping for. However, the problem remains. I think the Canadian trade negotiators pointed out that they are going to take their time reaching an agreement with the United States. So they're in no big hurry. You know, after all, all. I mean, I find it hard to believe because right now, I think aluminum exports from Canada to the United States are being hit with a tariff of about 50%. I believe it's a very stiff, high tariff, but that's got to be hurting a lot of U.S. users of aluminum product. You know,
but on the other hand, I mean, isn't it this deadline? I think it's July the 9th, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If they don't meet the deadline, if the Canadians don't, Trump will just put more taxes on them, more tariffs on them.
And I'm pretty sure that that's going to make some users of Canadian exports in the United States quite angry. They're going to put up quite a fuss. It's going to increase costs, and that might lead to higher prices for American consumers and fewer jobs in those industries that use Canadian imports.
Canadians cave because they're vulnerable.
And they might because their economy is doing poorly. It's expected to grow by only 1.1% according to the consensus. However, the same consensus says U.S. growth should only be 1.5% in 2025 and roughly 1% in the second half. So that's not helping out our cause as far as negotiating tariffs. It's got to be, I think this is worth mentioning, Stuart. The world growth outlook is horrible. Mexican growth 2025, 0, a goose egg. That's what they're looking for, the consensus. I think less than 1% for the EU, and UK is about 1%.
We're headed for a golden age. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. John, look at this headline from the Wall Street Journal. The top 10% of income earners do not feel rich. First of all, what does it take? How much do you have to make to get in the top 10%?
My understanding it's about $250,000 family income to make the top 10%, which sounds like a lot if you're in Omaha or something like that in the Midwest. But in
there you go. I mean, even Fox News, Fox Business is having a hard time keeping a straight face when it comes to this. This is humiliating on all levels for Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. There's no way around it. Now, the left is going to try and say, well, he's doing the art of the deal, the negotiation. No, he's not. He said he was going to do something, and then 3 days later, he completely took it off with nothing to show for. Like, nothing happened other than a roller coaster of emotions. And to be honest, it's extremely pathetic that Prime Minister Carney tried to do this in the first place, because it wasn't just a tax starting today. It was a tax that was actually backdated long time ago, which is super freaking weird. Can you imagine tariffs on Canada that are backdated? I mean, that's essentially what Canada just tried to do to America. It's super weird. Carney is not Trump. You'll never be Trump, buddy. You'll never be Trump. In fact, you won't ever be a good prime minister. You're just showing to people that you suck. And that elbows up was literally just a campaign slogan. It's so funny that the liberals lean into, they accuse Pierre and the conservatives of just being after slogans. You're just a slogan generator. When in fact, it's just projection. They're the slogan generators. It's so humiliating. But now let's take a look here at what CTV has to say about the matter.
Back to our top story now, Trump's pause on trade negotiations with Canada. With me now is Michael Faltroy, political analyst. Michael, welcome, and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Good to be back with you.
Now, President Trump, in that Fox interview that aired today, repeated that trade talks are on hold until Canada drops certain taxes, and even, once again, called for Canada to become the 51st state. Why do you think Trump is combining trade threats with calls to annex Canada?
It's difficult to be sure, but I think he seems to be stuck in a rhetorical loop that he can't get out of. No one takes seriously here in the United States his talk about the 51st state. He's not really up to the job, at least to this point, of managing the 50 states that are in the union. So adding to that doesn't make a lot of sense. But
wrong. Never been more wrong. He's got 4 years to figure this out. Trump does. And I do think that Canada is so vulnerable. Our economy is so shattered. We're so divided. We don't have unity, that these aren't just, they're funny little comments, but does Trump actually want to annex Canada? I mean, it wouldn't hurt America. It really, really wouldn't. I mean, think about it. If you're leading America, the most powerful nation in the entire world, and this isn't me advocating for it, nor is it me speaking against it. This is just me being objective. If you're holding on to the most powerful economy in the world and every other, wannabe superpower around the world is after you to devalue or to destabilize your currency, to mess up your economy, to infiltrate your system, to hurt you into some capacity. And that's objectively what Russia, China, North Korea, and all the enemies that America has, Iran, that's what they're all trying to do, right? If you're holding on to this, you have to look at the map. The map over time, the global map, has expanded nations and retracted nations, and expanded nations and retracted nations. And we're sitting in this time frame right now where things have been pretty consistent in terms of everyone's had their own piece of land and no one's really expanded or retracted in quite some time. Russia is the exception, right? With Crimea, Ukraine, blah, 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 all that stuff, but it's not really going their way, at least not yet. So America taking over Greenland, I do think that we are eventually going to see that. And I don't think there's going to be military might. I think that America is just slowly going to encroach their way into Greenland because it does have a lot of trade and military advantageous positions. Am I advocating for that? It's besides the point. I just think that objectively, if you are the world superpower, you need to stay on top because other people are gunning for your job. Other people are gunning for that superpower position. And that would be a very scary alternative if China or Russia became that superpower and started expanding or retracting their land. Now, is Canada going to be annexed by America? I don't think so. There's a lot of people, probably a lot of viewers that think that that'd be a great idea. Probably a lot of viewers that think that, screw you, we want to be a sovereign country. And that's absolutely fair. But I do think that there needs to be some form of a merger between Canada and America, just in terms of future proofing ourselves. Having joint American-Canada bases here in Canada on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and up north. Right. There's definitely more that can be done to intertwine Canada and America that just isn't being done. And I think that's something that Kevin O'Leary tried to explain to the world, that it would be a beautiful thing if our economies had a merger of some sort. That doesn't mean being annexed and being the 51st state. It kind of be like a little bit like Puerto Rico kind of thing. Like you're part of America, but not really part of America. You know what I'm saying? Is that going to be the case for Canada? We're going to have to wait and see. But it is very interesting to see Carney fold so quickly to the president.
He does seem to be using it as a form of leverage, or hoping that it could be used as leverage to get what he perceives to be a better deal for the United States with regard to all of the tariffs and mineral rights and all the other kinds of negotiations that have historically taken place between the U.S. and Canada. It's a new tactic. It's one that most observers in the United States don't think will be very effective, but it is the card that he's trying to play right now.
You're right. He's blaming the digital services tax for the pause, also mentioning, including in that interview, Canada's supply management program. These are, you've said, negotiating tools. Will they work, do you think?
I think they'll work if, for lack of a better phrase, Canada doesn't continue to stand strong. I think to this point, I think it's been pretty clear that the nation of Canada has resisted a lot of this. And I think as long as that continues, the president of the United States will ultimately run out of time. This is entirely unnecessary. You know, border countries always have negotiations back and forth over things that pop up over time, sort of acute issues. But things that have been continuous are those that are continuously worked on as needs arise. It appears here that he seems to be starting a new path, but I don't know that the American people are paying as close attention to it as he seems to want. And for that reason, I think it's going to be difficult for him to muster the public will and the public interest and public support for his plans.
So what should Canada's next move be? Do we get rid of the digital services tax?
Well, yes, we've already done that, and it's quite showing of our cards. We don't have any cards. We are so freaking vulnerable to America that we can't even stay true to something for more than a week, right? Hey, we're going to stick it to you, America, in the last 3 days. I mean, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that we're not putting on this digital service tax, but it should have never been threatened in the first place. And that's the difference between the right and the left. Don't make promises and don't make threats that you just can't keep. It doesn't look good politically, especially not against President Trump in this term. He doesn't care, and he will absolutely screw us to the ends of the earth if stuff like this keeps happening. But that's my opinion, folks. I would absolutely love to know yours. That is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be super awesome for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. And one last thank you to today's sponsor. I'll see you guys in another one. Bye for now.